Hello and welcome everyone to episode 26 of the Dirty Side of the Grid podcast, where we've turned up late to qualifying, and since we're Canadians at the Canadian Grand Prix, we will be starting at the back of the grid with Latifi and Stroll. I am Youssef, and I'm joined by my co-host Mohammed, and today we're going to be talking about the Canadian GP, or yani, a better name would be Boring GP.
Interesting start. Okay.
It was a boring GP. The last few races, you have to say, were quite boring.
The last few, yeah, I feel like this one was. No, I feel like this one was okay. It wasn't incredible, but I wouldn't say it was boring. I wouldn't go that far.
Really? Really?
Yeah, no, I'd say it was actually quite entertaining.
Like we
I feel
missed
like
out on.
the VSCs, the safety cars. I guess if you had belief that science could actually get Verstappen at the end, it was something. But no, in general, I say it wasn't too bad. I like the strategy element of it because the early VSC at the start caused by whoever was first to go out. I think it was Perez. I don't. Whoever was
Perez, yeah.
first.
It was Perez and then Mick.
Yeah, it just opened things up with the strategy. So the fact that Alonso didn't pit in either of the VSCs. Certain people did. Like once, I think it was Max pitted, but Science didn't. It all, opened everything up.
I think my issue is, when Sainz is like chasing Verstappen, you just know he's not going to overtake him. Like he's not even going to come close. So it's boring. It's like, see, if it's like Verstappen chasing Sainz, it would also be boring because Verstappen will catch him and he'll overtake him. So it's kind of like it's boring. Like when it was George ahead of Verstappen, that was very interesting. Because George, even though he's in a much slower car, he was actually defending really, really well. And so it makes it very interesting. Whereas with these guys, it was just like Sainz is it's so boring. Like it's like he reminds me, who he reminds me of? Bottas last year. Whenever Verstappen would come, he just disappear, bro. You disagree?
Okay.
Is it not the same?
No, yeah, I mean I can't exactly.
You can't say anything.
I'd like to think Science has better racecraft than Valtteri Bottas. But we will save this. We will have to save this for the best to worst and all the rest of it.
That was interesting. I'd say Charles's drive was.
I don't think I saw Charles the entire race, to be honest. but we'll get on to that. So actually, yeah, we'll start off with your unrelated thing of the week. If you have like a fact or a video or something.
I have a video if I can find it. It's basically last week. You guys don't already know, but I forgot to look for a thing of the week. So it ended up with me like going last minute to find something. So now I have a few like set up. This one is Toto saying that everyone will have a target on their back next year at the end of the fourth season of Drive to Survive. And then it's Lewis coming out of the car in Azerbaijan with his hand on his back and just walking very slowly, and he can't walk. He said everyone would have a target on them. Nice. It's very funny, to be honest. I'd say that one is, that one's a thing of the weekend.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, obviously, you did show me the video before we started recording, and I may or may not have laughed. So we'll swiftly move on. I will link that in the YouTube description.
You did laugh, bro.
There's no evidence. I cannot confirm or deny. Right, in terms of news,
we both know the truth.
In terms of news, the first thing I wrote down is that Melbourne has actually been extended now on the calendar. It's got itself a new contract up until
2035.
I probably should have known. Wow, is it actually that long?
Yep.
No, 2035. I mean, it's.
See, it's a boring race. I don't know. It was fairly more interesting this year. As in, I think the improvements they did to the track were definitely worth it. And I think it added a kind of new element that was very good. But as in, it's not the type of race you go and you're like, I want to add it on till 20. It's not like, it's not that kind of track. Like, I'm trying to find just the news article where they published it, but it's not that type of track. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, you'd give it like a 1-2 year kind of thing. Because the thing, I feel like the only thing Melbourne adds to their calendar is that section of the world. Because like when you look at if you imagine like a map and then you have a pin where every single race is, it's quite nice to have one over in that corner of the world, like Australia or New Zealand. So Melbourne's cool for that sense, but in terms of the racing and stuff, like it's useless. And as we keep mentioning, will they even have an Australian driver on the grid next year?
Yes, Oscar Piastri will be
That
in the
was
grid.
such a sick segue. Yeah. Do you want to mention that
But
now?
I will say before I mention that it was very good. Okay. We'll mention this. Last week we spoke about why would Williams take him in, and we spoke about Mercedes giving up the power of having like Williams as like they supply engines to them and all of that stuff. So it turns out that Mercedes are choosing to drop one team, and they have to drop one team, and based on like all the calculations, it's very highly unlikely they would drop Aston Martin. So the Williams is basically a team they're going to drop. And based on that, Safnar came out and said that next year, Oscar Piastri will have a seat in F1. He confirmed. So
Bad.
based on that, Renault will be supplying engines to Williams next year. Yes, Australian Grand Prix renewed until 2035. It can be confirmed, like sure.
Like you're
If
just
it is.
locking off spaces. Yeah, there is. You're just locking off spaces on their calendar. Like it's really not worth it. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and there was
It's
a lot
like
of talk that Spa might not be on the calendar from next year.
no. See, this is what I'm saying. This is horrific. This is like you know how all of these drivers, like Max has signed his like 8-year deal or whatever, and then Charles got like a 5-year one. Lando might have got 5 years as well. All of these, and then Ocon went and got like 3 or 5 years as well.
He got
Like
the same length, I think.
exactly. Like, did he really does it? Same way with Melbourne now. Like all of these oil money, you can say like whether Bahrain should have like a 10-year contract or whatever it is, but at the end of the day, it's an interesting. I'm pretty sure Bahrain is actually like one of the highest in terms of overtakes every year, and it's quite a decent track. And these places do have the money, but like if you have the choice, why are you extending Melbourne for that long? Because it,
See, you have to say like it's obviously for us it's inconvenient because the timing of the race is terrible. The race is a boring race, which is a very bad time. So you don't want to watch it and you don't really want it to be there. And it's obviously very difficult. I feel like the calendar this year is horrible, the way they set it up, because
oh yeah,
you've got like I think it was Azerbaijan back to back with Canada.
with
Like,
Canada, yeah,
how does that make sense? I feel like with Australia, I wouldn't mind Australia as much if say you had China, Australia, Japan back to back. Like, obviously, it's very difficult. It's still like a lot of travel, but if you go say Australia from Australia, like China, Japan, generally time zone differences is very small. Obviously,
yeah.
there's a lot of travel distance stuff, but that could be like a triple header, for instance. Don't go do Azerbaijan, US, like
That was literally one of the
go
points I made. So
Canada.
someone just backed out Google Maps and then had, Baku, Montreal, and then we're actually going to Silverstone next. So they're gonna fly over the UK to Canada with a back-to-back race weekend. Now take the week off and then end up in the UK for next week. When they could have just gone to the UK first and then done Canada afterwards.
Yeah,
Like
I
with this whole emissions thing and all of that stuff and trying
it
to
doesn't make any
save.
sense. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Like, how are you going to be carbon neutral if you're flying across countries like that and then flying back again to go to the next race?
See, I don't mind if, say, for instance, you do like you start the season off. Like where did we start the season this year? I forgot. We started in Qatar or was it Bahrain? Bahrain.
Bahrain, yeah.
Yeah, we have been starting Bahrain the past few years. So I don't mind say you start Bahrain, you do Qatar, you do Jeddah. Like three really like I think Qatar is actually quite nice. I like the track from last year was fairly interesting. It wasn't like
Yeah.
the most entertaining, but it's just fairly interesting. I really like Bahrain. I think Bahrain is actually a really nice track.
Same.
Uh, Jeddah, I think you know by this point. Jeddah is for all the
Sky.
criticism I said, I actually really love Jeddah, the track. So, but I think those three races, if you have those three together, and then you have a break, and then you have say like US and Canada, then you have a bit of a break, then you say you have like Australia, China, Japan, or for instance, you do Europe and then you have Australia, China, Japan, then have a week, then the last week and like you have Brazil and then like a week and then you have the last one in UAE. I feel like
Yeah.
that's a bit more kind of like obviously they don't want to like I think what they're trying to do is they don't want to box off areas where it's like you have all the races in in Asia or Southeast Asia now, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
and then all the attention is on every other place for the next like however long. Do you get what I mean? Like it's not good for business, but also like when you're trying to be net zero and all of this stuff, with the amount of flying you're doing, the amount of ships you're hiring to move your stuff, all of that, how does that make sense? Like you are actually hurting the environment, you're not helping it at all. You're not actually being net zero, you're making it worse because you're
Yeah,
traveling so
yeah.
much. I think people don't realize how many people are in the paddock because it's not just the drivers flying, it's the whole teams, it's them moving all their equipment there,
The cars, yeah,
the
everything, the
press,
motorhomes.
like all the press are going, and it's not just the guys on TV, it's all the guys behind the TV, like the film crew and all of that, the audio
Yeah.
guys. All of these guys are moving there. And it's not just Sky Sports, you've got Sky Sports, you've got the like people from around the world. All of these
Sky
people are
Sports Italy,
traveling.
Sky Sports Germany, you got all those
It
other
makes no
channels as
sense.
well.
Yeah, I feel like the calendar this year is just it makes no sense. And Australia being on the calendar to 2035 is insane. Honestly, just like how do you put Australia to 2035 and then you're like, yeah, I think Spa should go.
Bro, yeah, like the
What?
whole calendar's gonna be locked off. Like soon enough, yeah, there's gonna be like a one-off race in some incredible track. You know how like COVID, we had like Mugello and Turkey and stuff come back. In a couple years, we will have a one-off race, and it's gonna be the most incredible race ever. And we're gonna be like, this is incredible. This track needs to stay on the calendar. This was so good. What an
They remove it.
incredible race. Blah, blah, blah. And then there'll be no space. Like every track will have a 10-year contract. There'll be no space on the calendar, and then yeah, like we won't be able to go again.
You
Like
know,
it's filling up. Like there's no free spaces anymore.
so which tracks have I know like all the European ones are on their kind of last leg of their contracts. So
Yeah,
Silverstone, Spa, Monza, Monaco. Like you can't get rid of it. Like for all
and try
the stuff,
find it.
all the stuff I say about Monaco, you can't just go and ditch these races.
What you're
Okay,
taking
no,
it
no,
back?
no, 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 no. Like
Interesting,
Monaco
interesting.
can go, but the others can't go.
Really,
The
it
others can't go
sounded like you're
unless
sympathizing with Monaco.
Monaco,
Therefore,
Monaco, Monaco can't go if you just sprinkle water on the track. Then it can stay. If you sprinkle water on the track before the race, I don't mind it staying. Honestly, I'm being serious. If they actually get like sprinklers out and just spray the racetrack, I'll be very happy, bro. Because it actually made the race so interesting. Like it's a random timer that randomly sprays water in like at the beginning and mid race to keep it interesting.
you know the FIA would do all that somehow. They
Yeah,
would
true.
fully.
Um, Another piece of news that is big. I don't know. I don't think we spoke about this last time. I think it's new, but there is a lot of talk about South Africa coming back. I think we spoke about this last time. No?
We did mention, yeah, we mentioned South
Yeah,
Africa
yeah. So
in
that might
terms
be
of the
coming
calendar,
next
but
year.
that's another spot then. If they're gonna, yeah, exactly, that's a good point. If they sign South Africa and they say, it's the first time, so they probably only do like 2-3 years. But if they actually end up doing that, once again, that's just another place in their calendar that's going to be locked
Yeah.
off. Then you've got
So
to
we have
wind that into the logistics.
Canada's one race that's probably going to stay for a long time. You've got two in the US, which might go to three. Yeah, no, three in the US. We have three.
Yeah, we're going to have Las Vegas is already
Three,
confirmed next
three
year,
in
I
the
think.
US, so that's four races already. Melbourne's five, and then you've got say South Africa six, and then you've got I feel like I've counted South Africa, and then you've got four in the Middle East, that's 10, and then you've got Singapore, China, Japan, that's 13, and then you've got Brazil 14, and then
Then you've got
the
all the
sad part.
European tracks that
No, you
you
know what the
don't.
sad part is they
Yeah.
remove Spa, they remove Monaco, and they'll keep France. That is the most annoying thing in the world. Like, why? Like, Mexico.
I
Remove
can't. France
Mexico.
has
Why
tracks
do
as
we
well,
have,
you know. Like France
why?
has multiple tracks. Like you could
Exactly.
just
Why are we
a
going to this
good one
bad one? And Mexico's gonna stay. After all of this and all the stuff I say about Mexico will stay and will lose Spa. That's
purely for
just
Checo,
sad.
isn't it? Yeah.
That's just sad, man.
I'll try find the picture. There's a picture that a certain account does. I forgot on Twitter, and they'll do like year by year, and then fill in the block with a little color if they have a contract for that year. They've done it for the drivers, and then they'll do it for the tracks as well. So if I find it, I'll link it below. If I don't, then it won't be
Is
there.
is Formula One not reminding you a bit of football in a sense, with all these players, not players, drivers here, but tied to big contracts, and essentially, like, for them to move, you'd have to buy out their contract, so you're not really gonna go buy out their contract because it's very expensive. So essentially, the players are gonna stay, or in this case, the drivers are gonna stay at their teams. So if you look at the grid now, Checo's there for 2 more years. Max is there for however long, like two,
The
three
rest
more
of his
years.
life.
Sainz 2 more years. Leclerc has like 3 more years, I think. Who else is Lando, George? What's his name for some reason? Ocon for some reason has a
Ocon's
long
there, but
thing.
Alonso's also talking about negotiating this summer as well because he wants to stay for longer. Like,
Where are the, like, like it was kind of like every year you had the transfer drama, who's gonna go where, who's gonna do what, because people had like 2-year contracts and all of this. Even the people that had like say Lewis had a 1-year contract, he knew he was gonna sign with Mercedes.
yeah,
Sebastian knew he was gonna stay. It's just about negotiating it and then confirming. But like this 4 or 5-year contract, I actually really dislike this. Like it
yeah.
ruins a lot of the, even if the drivers stay in their position, it just ruins a lot of the drama. Like,
It ruins
oh,
their own thing as well.
is he gonna stay? Is he gonna leave? Is he gonna do this? And
Yeah.
we're gonna have Drive to Survive for 2 more years. That is confirmed.
Nice. There was
Yeah.
also on
No,
the
no,
driver topic, like just
it's not.
I think surely it's not good for the drivers either, because if you truly like back your potential, locking yourself in for a deal for like 5 years, do you not think your value is going to increase?
But you
Like,
have to look at
if you
it.
know what I mean?
No, I get what you mean. Like, say you sign like a small contract, like Lando signs like a, say, 10 million a year deal, and then goes and he's fighting for a championship and stuff. He is locked into that contract, and you
Exactly.
can't push it to like what Max is making, which is like 25 million. Lewis is making 40 million. Like these big
I think
contracts.
Max is making 40 now as well.
Is
But
he
even then,
making
if
40?
you imagine, like, yeah,
Yeah,
so
exactly. So imagine Max, he won his championship. He's doing all this 25 million stuff. He had to renegotiate a new long-term contract. But
now
they
it's
did do that with
peak.
Lando as well. They did do it with Lando, where they signed a Monaco and then they signed a new contract after their season ended, actually, where they renegotiated the fund, like however much he's going to make. So I think it's not. I think there are clauses in there where if the team's not performing well, or if you're performing well, there will be kind of a renegotiation of sorts.
Okay, all right.
But you also think Danny Ricciardo, where he's not performing and he's guaranteed his
This
money.
guy
So
is stealing a living. Gee, that look. Also, actually, on the topic of driver contracts, I'm pretty sure I saw that Pierre Gasly will be staying at AlphaTauri next year.
Pierre Gasly staying on for Tauri next year. So
So
for next year, we've got Red Bull confirmed, Mercedes confirmed, basically. Um, Ferrari confirmed.
yeah,
Williams probably with Albon and Piastri. It will be the case of, I think Latifi's going to go. Albon's like destroying him this year, to be honest.
yeah.
Like, you have to say, it's not even a competition. Latifi is performing very, very badly this year, which is very shocking because he was kind of like on an upwards trajectory. Like, even if it was slow, it was going up. Now it's
Yeah.
just going nowhere. It's just going down, bro. Yeah, Gasly. I think Gasly will stay. I think Tsunoda's actually performing very well so far this year. As in, he has
In
scored points.
overall, yeah.
I think. Excuse me. It's not the case where last year he was getting destroyed fully by Gasly, because Gasly is also performing like
Yeah.
relatively okay. So I think when you compare him to Gasly, you realize he's actually picked up the pace and he's done really well. Like, he's only had, I think, one big crash so far this year, which was literally yesterday in Canada. But since then, he's actually been fairly consistent since the start of the season. So I would say, like, he's done a fairly good job. So I don't see him leaving. But I also see Red Bull saying that, maybe we should, like, we have so many talented drivers. Why don't we go and put like Liam Lawson in the car, or we put any
Yeah.
of these really good guys, like
There's no
young
way they
talents
keep
coming
the
up?
same lineup for too long. Like, it's been a little bit too long since they've changed something, and the whole point of AlphaTauri is to prepare drivers for Red Bull. So
Yeah, so the difference in points between Tsunoda, he has 11, Gasly has 16.
60-6-0.
1-6.
Oh, that's nothing.
16. So it's a difference of 5 points. So I think that puts into perspective how good he's actually been doing so far. Obviously 11 is not exactly like great, but then AlphaTauri doesn't have incredible pace.
True.
Uh,
Two things left. First thing, Lewis Hamilton is now an honorary Brazilian. He has citizenship, which means yes. So
the Brazilian
technically,
GP is his own GP.
that's what I'm saying. If we finesse some stats, he has completely gone clear because he always he wins Silverstone a lot. And then if you add
No,
on a couple
he has the
Brazilian
most wins
GP
at home.
wins,
Without
exactly.
the Brazilian GP, he has the most wins
And now
at his
you
own.
add on the Brazilian GP as well.
Yeah, but that's not really his home GP. Let's be honest.
It will be. You know what? I want to go to Brazil.
Sure, but it's not
I
really.
want to watch this. It is, all right. It's fine. That's what the record books say. I write
Of
them.
course. Yeah, you're right there. Sure.
Speaking of books, because I'm coming with the segues today, the FIA did exactly what Youssef said they would. And not only are they going to intervene with porpoising, but they've announced they're going to, but they can't yet because they need to figure out the system that they're going to put in place. They need to measure it. They need to decide what the threshold is for what's dangerous and what isn't. So it's pretty much exactly what we said.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the whole idea of them measuring the porpoising and limiting it, which I thought was a good idea in terms of not affecting team performance, but rather limiting the teams that are essentially like, say, Mercedes, essentially, from increasing the porpoising, so they can get some, like, it will slow them down a bit, but to keep the drivers safe. But you mentioned it, I think that's the best way of doing it, and these like teams will have to find another way to get quicker. But yeah. Sebastian Vettel might be leaving next. Like, this might be his last year. There is talk that he might be retiring soon.
Is this based off something he said?
No, this is rumors.
Ooh.
But when you think about it, it does make sense.
It does. It does. I don't know. We'll have to see. I think he I don't think he did too
Just
badly
like,
this
what?
race, but I thought it was going to be based off something else because you always just assume pretty much every year oh, is he going to retire this year? He's going to wait till next year, but we'll have to wait and see.
I think with the run I'm on right now, you're just like, is it gonna be true? Is it gonna be true? Is it gonna be true? He was P12 this race.
In the summer break, maybe I'll get you to write down all the teams and all the drivers for next year before the contracts come out and the calendar as well.
I'll say one thing. This week is, I know we haven't, like, I have to mention it just because every week we sit down and we destroy Daniel Ricciardo. Yeah? And my friend, who is a huge Daniel Ricciardo fan, cries at home, and he's very upset that basically we're destroying Daniel Ricciardo. So I have to say, this week, Daniel finished way ahead of Lando Norris, but he still did finish in P11, which is disappointing. But he finished way ahead of Norris, so I'll give him this. Daniel Ricciardo did well, and he beat Lando, but he didn't score points, bro. So yeah, that's as far as I'm going.
Nice.
That's all you're
Don't
getting.
want to give him too much credit. Yeah, step by step, we're getting there. I mean, that pretty much summarizes the news bit. Do you want to go? Do you want to do the 60-second summary?
I don't think it will require that much. You want to time it? We'll see if I can. What did I do last time?
It was 22.8, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. I've still got it up actually. Yeah, 22.8.
I'll try and beat that this week. There's not much to say. Okay. Ready?
Okay. Yep.
Set. Okay, you say go.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Verstappen took pole. George Russell went on dries in the wet and spun. Hamilton got a podium. Angela jumped in the river. A lot of VSCs. Mick Schumacher went out again. Perez, unreliable engine. and Charles with an incredible drive. Sainz, Sainz, and that's basically it.
Oh,
So
23.76.
no. Sainz, bro. It's because of
It's
Sainz.
close.
If I
Very
stopped
close.
before
It
Sainz, then there's no
was.
Sainz. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take it. That's still good though. But I think I've covered everything. I didn't miss out much.
Yeah, that was pretty much everything, to be fair.
You know who's surprising that I think has been kind of going under the radar and has actually been doing fairly okay for a first, like, for a rookie and everything. Like he's not broken any records, but he's
I
done
know you're about to
okay.
mention it. Your underrated drive for this race.
No, he's not my underrated driver. I'm just talking
he's
like
not.
people forget him.
Yeah.
Zoe. I keep pronouncing his name incorrectly. But as in he's done okay so far.
Yeah, you know what?
Like
Has he
he's
been
had a
doing
lot of
all right?
DNFs. He has had a lot of DNFs, mainly
Yeah.
because of unreliability. But like he did score points this race, and he's been doing like fairly okay. Like to be fair, he's doing way better than Mick Schumacher. So it was the only other really, like, you can say, rookie.
Right.
And Mick Schumacher's in a way better car. So
they were kind of, I don't know, the cars were kind of, actually,
to be
no, yeah,
fair,
he
he's
probably
had
wasn't a slightly faster car, but they were kind of even. Like Bottas and Magnussen were doing quite well. I think they were doing really well at the start of the year, but
so Zoe got like two P11 finishes. He got like I think a P15, a P18, the P8, a P10, and the rest are DNFs basically. And it's not like he's not crashing. It's DNFs purely like unreliability. It's not excuse me, it's not like it's unreliability. So when you take into consideration most of his races, he's been out because of unreliability of the car. When he's there, I think he scored points or got P11 or scored points like say half the time, and then the other half is like P15, and then once P15, once P18, P11
yeah,
twice, and then scored points like 2 or 3 times. It's okay, like across the board. You generally say it's fairly good. Like he's ahead of.
yeah,
I wouldn't compare him to Latifi, to be honest, just because the car is way better. But like when you look at, I think the closest to him is Mick Schumacher, to be honest. And I think because
yeah.
if you compare Magnussen and Bottas, they're kind of fairly close in terms of performance of the car and what they're expecting of the car. So you can kind of draw conclusions between Mick and Zhou and kind of try and kind of gauge what they're doing. And he's doing way better than Mick.
Yeah, he does have 5 more points. I mean, they're respectable performances, to be fair. He definitely I remember more at the start of the season, he was definitely being praised. I guess he kind of disappeared because of those reliability issues, but he's not bad. He's doing all right.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I'm saying. He's not like destroying any records. He's not going and winning this and stuff. But he's doing okay. Mick,
honorable mention.
yeah, honorable. Mick,
No,
can we talk
we'll
about Mick?
allow Mick. No. Let's start on a positive note. At
Okay,
least we'll
okay, we'll
let's
talk
let's
about
get the
him then.
nice stuff out of the way.
Okay,
Okay.
honorable, not honorable mention. I think best performance by far is Charles. Like, I don't think there is a conversation about who else do you think he went. The guy went from like, was he P18 or where was it?
Right. Yeah, I just saw him get stuck
To
behind
P5?
people quite a lot and all of this DRS trains here and there. Like
Yeah,
he
but
did well, but and obviously there were like
good
safety
recovery
cars
drive.
involved. Do you know what I mean?
But still good recovery drive.
Certain man's, best drivers come back from 30 seconds behind to P4 with no
So who are you
safety
gonna
cars. So
who are you gonna say was the best driver
this
then, if not Charles?
Max is such an easy option to go for.
Yeah, but no,
And I feel like his drive was superior to Leclerc's.
Really?
I feel like you don't want to give him credit because it wasn't testing. Like it was a lead from the front kind of thing.
But that's the thing. Like, if you take like when Max takes the lead from the front, like he's gonna win, bro. Like,
We're just gonna leave him aside for now.
I don't think he like. I think a recovery drive, even if you get stuck in traffic for a bit, even with the VSCs, is quite impressive. Obviously,
Yeah, to be
like
honest, no one
I
else really
would say,
stands.
I would say, like when we were talking about Lewis's, he had a very good drive. I forgot where he came back from the very back. I think
Spain.
that one time that race, George had a really good race as well, where he managed to keep Max behind him for a very, very long time in a slower car. He kept Perez, both the quicker cars, DRS, everything. That's why I think I was talking more about George this time at that time. But this time, there's no one
Right.
who went out of his way and did something like impressive like that. So that's why I'm saying Charles ahead. I'm not hating on this. Don't
Ooh,
cry.
ooh. Mercedes strategy, not because they did incredibly well, but because the bar is on the floor and they actually like there were two VSCs, I think, if I'm counting right, and a safety car, and they didn't bottle it at any opportunity. Like I
They're
know I'm
not
giving them like
Ferrari, bro.
Ferrari standards, but like at the same time, they've done it a few times now. And P3 and P4, that's what the second biggest points haul. No, hold on.
I
That's
think it's
27. That's the biggest.
the first. Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
Do you
So
think? Do you think?
Mercedes were the constructor with the most points out of this race.
Do you think some like since last year, Mercedes have been a bit unreliable on strategy? It's like if you
Yes.
have to choose one team where you like to turn to for strategy, it's no longer Mercedes. I feel like now Red
Yeah.
Bull's way ahead. Like Red
Yeah.
Bull are, like they're ahead on pit stops, they're ahead on strategy, they're ahead on the car. is a case where now they are the best team on the grid by far.
Actually, here's an interesting stat, right? So the last time, I think Red Bull have just gone and won 6 races in a row. The last time they did that was with Vettel in 2013. But to be fair to give Vettel his credit, those 6 were just purely him. These 6 have been Verstappen and Perez swapping, mainly Verstappen, obviously, but still. Do you think this could be the start of a dominant era for Red Bull? Because they were obviously quick last year, and now this year they could win, both championships.
It'd be interesting to see. I don't think I think it'd be very tough to maintain the kind of like level that Mercedes had in the last few years because they had like all the development time they wanted and all the money they really wanted. Whereas this year there's the budget cap, which you really need to speak about. But there's the budget cap, there is the like the time in the wind tunnel, the CFD time, all of that. So you need to
Yeah.
be very smart about where you're spending your time and all of that. So that's why I think having the best engineers is going to be a very big thing. But if they manage to do that, I see them like winning, but I don't think they'll win 7 or 6 back to back. 7 like Mercedes, 8 actually. I don't see that.
Yeah.
It's no, I think that's too far fetched. Maybe like I think they might win like the next 4. Like Max will win 4 back
Wow,
to back.
wait, hold on. They'll win 4 back to back.
Yeah, I think then like I think it'll be a case of they'll win kind of 4 and it gets harder as you go and then they drop off a bit. I don't see
Interesting.
them like not
That's
necessarily
a
4. It might be 2, 3, 4, but I see them winning maybe a few and then dropping off a bit.
yeah.
Because you have to
Okay.
think they've already won 1 now. So if they win a second, they've won 2 consecutive drivers championships. Which
I guess
realistically, where we stand today, they will win this year.
if things carry on how they are, yes.
But
Yeah.
the only other team that can fight against them is Ferrari, and we were literally talking about how unreliable their strategy is.
Yeah. I don't know if you can trust Ferrari to put on a good.
No,
I don't
no.
know at what point we're going to see Ferrari put on a good championship battle.
It's
Anyway,
not gonna
we'll
happen.
move on from best. I guess we're going to give it to Leclerc. I don't know. I feel like, yeah, no one else really stands out as like everyone just slotted into. The problem is, here's actually what I wanted to talk about. Normally, at this point in the season, everyone just kind of, they've stopped the whole. Oh, we haven't. This isn't a representative circuit. This is just the first, second, 14th race. We don't actually know where our pace is. Blah blah blah. This is now like we should know what the pecking order is. We should know
But you don't.
Red Bull's the fastest car, Ferrari's second fastest, Mercedes third, but And then, everyone else as well should be able to fit into their positions. The midfield is all over the place. Mercedes can either come third or be out in Q1, and we have no clue which one it could be. And then with the rest of the teams, they're either, with Red Bull and Ferrari, they're either winning or retiring. Why, at what point do we know where everyone is? Because it's very hard to give drivers credit for how good they are when their car just could be 4th fastest one day and then 10th the next.
Interesting. I feel like with the design philosophies this year, they've went for very different design philosophies. So it's a bit more extreme on the car can be very good at one circuit, and then the next circuit, the car is literally just, you're saying Mercedes are 3rd fastest at one track, and they're closing in on Red Bull and Ferrari, and then the next track they're out in Q1. So I think the car plays a much bigger role this year in that sense. The design philosophy of the car and what it's kind of been aimed at. The midfield, I think, is very interesting. I think it's actually a bit exciting that going into every race, you honestly have no clue who's going to be where in the midfield. Like, it's getting more and more, like, the more it goes on, the more confused you are because you're going to the next race. Like, to be fair, like, there are a few teams I think that you can kind of put them at the top. Like, I think Alpine are okay. Haas are a bit like yo-yo-y. Like, one race they're actually really good, one race they're terrible. But as in consistently up there, it's Alpine and probably Alfa Romeo. Those are consistently up there. Consistently at the bottom is like Williams, basically. McLaren,
sad to see.
McLaren, Aston Martin, Alpha Tauri, and Haas kind of yo-yo a bit. But I think Haas probably has the most, out of those guys, the highest kind of performance when it is suited to their car.
Yeah,
they
if
get the
everyone's
most
peaking, Haas is top.
And probably Aston Martin would be the closest to Williams when they go slow.
Yeah,
so that's I think it's more along the lines of now, instead of knowing exact pecking order, is kind of roughly bottom worst.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, so
top
it's not
three,
points on a
and then
graph, it's like sliders. Like
exactly.
they're lines.
Yeah, I think that's more kind of where we stand now, and I think from racetrack to racetrack, it will make a very kind of different conversation. Like, it can be this week you're really good, next week you're terrible, and so on and so forth. But it keeps it interesting. I think I actually really like that, because going into obviously, if you support a certain team religiously, it's going to be very difficult, because going into the next race, you're like, so are we going to be competing for a win, or are we going to be last? It's not very nice. But as in, I think for the show is very good, because going into every race, you're seeing different people competing with each other, like at the front, in the midfield, and at the back together. I mean, it's not the same race every week. And I think it's bringing out like some of the kind of the talent that we know is there that we may not have seen, like people against each other. You get what I mean? Like, with maybe Magnussen being able to fight up ahead with the Mercedes, seeing him also fight with Vettel in the middle, seeing him like he would not necessarily have been fighting with Vettel a few years ago, and so on and so forth. Bottas in the midfield up ahead, fighting a bit with the Mercedes. That's very interesting. And then seeing them drop at the back and kind of struggling keeps everything interesting. I think going into the season, everyone was like, "Oh, this team's gonna nail it. This team's gonna nail it." And before you knew it, you knew everyone's gonna nail it. But everyone forgot someone's gonna have to be the slowest car. But I think this keeps it interesting, whereas you don't necessarily have a pecking order. It's not like last year. To be fair, I think the midfield was a bit like scrambled, depending. So AlphaTauri is sometimes really quick and then sometimes okay, but this time is way more extreme.
Yeah, definitely. Like in the past few years, it's been they'll be around the same in terms of pace, but then strategy might play a part in it, or driver skill, or whatever it is. But now it's completely like one race you'll be in a much faster car, maybe still competing for the same positions, and then the next your car's just non-existent. But we'll go through. We'll save worst for now. Do you have like a nomination for underrated performance, like a decent drive you saw no one's really commenting on?
I'm thinking. Wait, let me look at the grid.
To be fair, I've got the results up now, and the names that are standing out I feel like Stroll, because Aston Martin had no quali pace somehow.
Ocon.
Ocon, yeah, somehow finishing above his teammate, even though his
Ahead of
teammate
Bottas as
started
well.
in second.
I
Oh
think
yeah.
when you talk about like someone that's a bit surprising, you have to. We mentioned Mercedes. I think you have to mention them as well. Like getting a P3, P4 is like taking advantage of like. Obviously, they only got P3, P4 because like one Red Bull's out and one Ferrari is at the back of the grid. But you have to mention them. I think Ocon probably, Bottas maybe.
Actually, to be fair, the first Red Bull wasn't even in front of them. So
Yeah, it was a
they've
different
got
one.
pre-free because Leclerc was out. But to be fair, Lewis as well, after the safety car, wasn't dropping off them that slowly. I mean, that quickly. Like he was never going to be in the fight for the win, but he was within like 3 seconds of them for like 10 laps. So they were losing time, but they weren't losing as much as you'd expect them to, which was surprising.
I think they are
That's
starting to close in a bit on in terms of pace. But I think there is still a massive gap. And this is the first time in quite a while Hamilton finished ahead of Russell, which
yeah,
is, I think now we'll start to see kind of a bit more of a, let's say, um, performance-wise against each other. I think Lewis maybe is starting to find his feet in the car. I think Russell was able to maybe cope with the car consistently better from the beginning. It might be the case Hamilton, they said, was running a heavier car and all of that because of with gathering data. But
yeah, I feel yeah.
it would be more interesting to see it now where they're kind of like Hamilton starting to pick up, and then will Russell kind of rise to the occasion? Will he drop off a bit? All of that stuff. He has been probably the most consistent this far, in the sense
Yeah.
that he's been in the top 5 every single race. I think he's the only person who's done that so far. And it's very impressive. I think people thought he'd probably perform way worse when he jumped into the Mercedes. He'd get torched by Lewis, whereas he's
Yeah,
a bit ahead. But we
I
will
don't
see
know. On
as the
the
season
topic
goes on.
of he's good and he's definitely consistent, and I don't think people would have expected. They definitely would have expected maybe the pace, but the consistency is definitely impressive. It's just with the whole data collection thing, the car being out of the way and whatever it is. I didn't want to entertain this stuff, but just to put it out there for people lacking brain cells, like safety car, equal tires. There's what is it, 15 laps to go, I think, once the safety car comes in. There was meant to be a battle for third between these two drivers in equal cars. And personally, I didn't hear any team radio talking about team orders, but I'm pretty sure Lewis went and put 5 seconds on his head in 15 laps. So like I don't want to talk too much, but with this whole
But
stuff,
then you
right,
can say at the
it's
same time
obvious he was data
he's
collecting and all of
finished
this at the start of the
he's finished ahead of Lewis so much. Like Lewis was
yeah,
data
but
collecting
it's
for a few races, but then he
bro,
still
the
finished
luck
ahead
is
of him.
mad. The luck was so mad this year. Like
Excuses,
literally
excuses,
almost every single
excuses.
instance where something happened, there was a safety car that helped him out. There was a VSC. Lewis was running extra kilograms of sensors. He was mad experimental, even in FP2 actually. He was mad experimental with his setup to the point where he said, all the quotes came out of him saying, "This is my worst ever car," or whatever it is, because he was running some mad setup and George is just on the control setup, like the usual expected one. So
Excuses.
whether you've switched already.
I'm
So
not switching, but
I guess
I have to present a balanced argument.
no, fair play, fair play.
I still think over the course of the season, George has been much better than Lewis. Um, like Lewis, like you have to say, even with the bad car and everything, all Lewis has been doing has been complaining since the beginning. Like, come on, like you've won so many championships. The moment you're in a back car, all you're doing is complaining. Like I get it at the same time, like from a look, Muhammad says is just going through so many emotions right now. He's like
Nah,
he's
keep going,
dying
go on.
inside. Like I get it, if you're used to a good car, you're used to having the best car. But like you assume when he jump into a back car, the moment like it goes bad, he still has the spirit to fight. But literally, he went to the back of the grid. He's like, "Nah, let's retire the car, save the engine." He
Did you
only
not
went on
say
because
save
his
the engine?
no, go fight. Like normally, like I
Bro,
would. I heard that radio. I heard that radio. And I was dead surprised. I'm not gonna lie, I was actually very confused because Lewis at that point would just put his head down and catch up, even if he's
That's what
gonna
he
get this
did.
point.
That's
Yeah,
what he did.
but
He finished
the
fourth.
message in itself was shocking. Like the fact that he was actually considering like, let's just go and like essentially lap one, or was it? Yeah, it was the first lap. Let's go park the car and save the engine. Bro, yeah. No. It's surprising the fact that I think if it comes from anyone else, I would not be surprised. The fact that it comes from Lewis, I think that's the surprising thing. You think with the winning mentality, he wouldn't give up so much. But I think this is probably his first time being in a car that is so uncompetitive in the sense that he can't compete for wins unless something goes horrifically wrong at the front. But they're actually so far behind the front two, he can't compete at all. I don't think he's been in a car this bad before, and it's probably not an
People
experience
can,
he's enjoying.
yeah, people have compared it to 2009. That was the first season I was watching F1, I think. So I don't exactly know too much about that, but yeah, it's probably. I mean, with the bouncing on top of it, it's probably worse than his 2009 car.
Yeah, way worse.
But all I'm gonna say is it was confirmed that in Baku, when he said the whole thing about his seat going cold, that was literally numbness from the bouncing. So his back literally got so sore it was numb. So he actually couldn't feel his seat, and that's why he radioed and saying it went cold. So
You have
I
to give
personally
him the
can't
fact that he's a lot older. So his body is probably like George is a lot younger than him. So his body will probably be able to take way more punishment from the bouncing and all this stuff than Lewis will be able to take, like in that sense, if you get what I mean. But it's
yeah,
interesting. It's interesting. We'll see as the season goes on how it goes,
it
and
will.
hopefully George finishes ahead so I can roast you for the last of the season. To be fair, Lewis's proper rival is Max, and Max is so far ahead, he's destroying him. So I'm happy.
All right.
Max will
Well,
get
I
a
know
second
something
one.
that will make you
Yeah,
nice. You know what will make you even happier? This is now time for the worst performance, and you can finally have that rant about Mick Schumacher you've been dying to mention. So, do you want to go into your worst performance of the day?
Mick Schumacher.
So I kind
I
of
can't say
spoiled it.
Daniel Ricciardo. I can't say Daniel Ricciardo now. He actually performed quite well. I think it's Mick Schumacher. The guy's shocking, man. He qualified P6 and then where is he? Oh my gosh. I'm not even gonna say anything. Okay, I'm just gonna
No, go
yeah.
on, go on.
No.
Let it go, go on.
It's so far. The only reason he's in F1 right now is just because of his dad's name. Like that's the only reason he's in F1. Bro, the guy can't even like. Everyone's like, wait, second season. He picks up in the second half of the season. Oh, bro, he's terrible. Like, when is he gonna actually start scoring points? He can't score a single F1 point. Latifi scored points in a Williams, bro. Latifi, no, think about this. Think about this. I want you to actually think about it.
Yeah.
Latifi scored points in a Williams, and he can't score points in a Haas that got P5, bro. Or is it? Yeah, he got P5. What?
That's tough. I
Tough,
read a thing.
tough, tough. That doesn't
It
quite
is
cover, bro.
tough.
Nah.
I I read a thing last year on Twitter that said what was it? It said I think Michael and Yoss accidentally swapped kids from birth. So now Jos Verstappen has been raising the actual Schumacher kid, and Michael's been raising the Verstappen child. So
Yeah,
it would make sense.
imagine. That would be hilarious.
You know what? You know who else is in contention? Speaking strictly about this race weekend, Sonoda. What on earth was that? Like, I know there's not a lot of space, and I know your tires are cold, but how on earth are you going to go straight into the barrier, like on
That
fresh
was
tires?
shocking. That was shocking.
That's so embarrassing. As a
No,
big grown F1 driver,
it is shocking. Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of pounds going into this man's pocket to drive that car, and he bottled it out of the pit lane. Like you're driving down at like 50 miles an hour. You've just turned off the limiter, and you're telling me you couldn't last 5 seconds before you put it in the wall. That's so bad. That's so embarrassing. Like, I don't even know. I actually just don't know. Like, stuff like that kind of ruins his trajectory, because you think, like, he's putting in good performances and it's going
And
well
then he
and all
has
that.
this one very bad one, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think he was actually ahead of. I don't know if he fully was, but he might have been ahead of Gasly. Either way, though, I ran a similar place on the track at the time. And then, yeah, how are you gonna go and do that? To be honest, it's I don't even know who else is in
He was
contention for
thinking about the
once.
sushi. He wanted to go for some sushi.
Nice. There's oh, you know what? No, one more. Alonso starting P2 and ending up behind your teammate. What is that? Two VSCs, and you're not going to pit in either of them, and then you're going to end up in the midfield. How are you going to start second and end up in the midfield? The guy was talking about sending out the inside of Max Verstappen at turn 1, and he's finished. He finished P7, but then got a penalty and got pushed down to P9. So after a P2 start, the guy's looking for 25 points, but maybe a podium was doable. I think with the Alpine pace, I feel like they were a bit slower than the Mercedes, but we'll say some defending with VSC's strategy. P3 was on the cards, and he went home with 2 points. 2 points to his name. And he's trying to negotiate this new contract, and he's trying to, like, say he wants to earn money and all of this, and he's faster than Ocon and all the rest of it.
Maybe he's the worst performance this week. We can let me make Schumacher off this week.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, we might have to back Alonso purely because he talks himself up as well. Like, not just because of the performance, but because he talks about diving up the inside of Max and doing all the rest of it. I feel like that is tragically embarrassing. Plus, I actually saw the clip of him and what he got the penalty for. It was horrific weaving. Like, it was dangerous. It was a slam dunk penalty. It was pretty bad. He moved like 5 times.
I
So
actually want to see this now.
I'm sure someone's posted it on YouTube by now. I think I saw it on Twitter. And while you search for that, is there anything else you wanted to mention?
No, I'm
Because
good.
I think that's about it, to be honest.
That's fun.
Yeah, I think that's all. I'll get the fantasy stuff up. Because
Yo.
I've been completely catfished this week on fantasy, like completely. So I was watching the practice. Okay, I wasn't watching practice. Who watches practice? But I checked the results of practice, and obviously the third one was wet. So I'm looking at the first and the second one, ignoring qualifying, because if you set up your car for qualifying, even if it's wet, you're kind of finessing yourself with that DRS straight. So no one's going to go extremely high downforce. I was like, right, what are the teams that are going to be well? Alpine, so I put Alonso in there. Aston Martin were looking quick for the whole of practice and then dropped a P's like 17 and 18 in quali. Tragic. Like, I got catfished so hard. Who else was there? Perez was dead, but I've had him in there because I knew Leclerc was going to have a penalty. So I thought Leclerc with an engine penalty being sent to the back, I'd rather go and turbo Perez. That was dead. Gasly was in and around P8 kind of thing in practice, goes and drops to like P15. So, like, I basically what I'm trying to say is I got finessed so hard that I was
How many
thinking I was
points do
going
you
to do
get?
extremely well, and I ended up coming. Hold on, I ended up coming. That's wait, what? It says first in Canada. But I'm pretty sure I came
How many points did you score?
76.
Okay, yeah. Oh,
I came.
76?
I came like what was it?
No, I think I got 100 and a bit. Yeah, you came last.
I came 12th. I think when it was
Yeah, from
actually. I don't
13.
know why it's showing that. Yeah, out of 13, I think I got the 12th score in terms of points this race week. I don't know why it's showing up as 147. That's wrong. Oh, it's so tragic. And then
I
you lot with
came.
has had no pace in practice, absolutely no pace.
Oh, I came
And then
in 6.
you bagged points as well. Youssef
161.
is still second,
He actually
but
extended his lead a bit, but I have my Mega Driver left.
yeah, that's the thing. Youssef still has the Mega Driver to use, so it's looking like a net P1 once he uses that. If
If it
everything goes
works.
to plan, yeah. If the guy retires, you're so screwed. So we'll have to see about that.
We do have someone in the group who did use it and it went sideways, and they actually came, I think, like quite far down that 1 week where they used the Mega Driver.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know what Perez actually got in terms of points, but I think because the turbo doubles it, I might have got even more minus points, which
Yeah, you got in minus
just
18, I think. 16,
yeah, it's
16, I
just
think.
what you love to see, really.
Isn't it?
Beautiful. I feel
Let's
like
talk
I'm gonna
about
get
our
dunked on as
predictions.
well in the other one. Yeah, it did get doubled. Oh, I feel like I'm gonna get dunked on with these as well, but we'll see how it goes. Let me get the results up. Oh, I'm not looking forward to this, you know. I'm never looking forward to this. Okay,
Why?
we're going off qualifying and not the
What
starting
is the
grid,
score?
which I
Let's
don't know.
just set the score first. Is it 6-2?
The score is currently 6-2.
Okay, let's go.
Right.
So quali.
The qualifying top three. Wow, wow. Okay. So qualifying was wet. We didn't know this at the time. The actual
Obviously.
result was Verstappen, Alonso, Sainz. We both went with Charles Pole. Wrong.
Yep.
You went with Max second. I went with Perez. Also wrong. And then we went with the other Red Bull driver as third.
Damn.
So
We've got
that's
0, basically.
that's a fat donut. The race result. Oh no, no, why have I done that? You said Max win.
Okay, I
Perez
got 1.
second, which is wrong. Charles third, which is wrong.
Okay, I got 1.
I said Perez win. Wait, it gets worse. Leclerc second, and then Carlos third, but Carlos came second.
I told you put Lewis in third. You remember I actually told you to put Lewis in P3, but I was like, come on, put Lewis third. You're like, nah. Oh,
You didn't believe that. You're such a dickhead. Ah. All right. Driver of the day. Oh no. Oh, this is bad. Okay, driver of the day. You went with Max. I went with Perez. It was actually Charles.
Charles, yeah.
So it's still 1-0 to you. You're gonna DNFs. You went with 4. I went with 3. Oh my god.
It's 3.
Yes. Okay. Okay. I screwed it. I'll take that.
So
I'll take
1-1.
that.
So it's 7-3.
Yes. It is that. Yeah.
Or is it
I kind of
7-3, or are
take
we
back
going?
celebrating now.
Is it 7-3, or are we going 6.5, 2.5?
No, we'll go 7-3 just so I can keep track of the numbers.
Yeah, but you didn't win. 7-3 indicates you won. You didn't win, bro.
Yeah, but it gives you a point as well. The gap
Sure.
stays the same. It's fine.
No, but then
All
you
right.
can say I got a point, so I won. You didn't win. Okay, 7-3.
Fine, we'll know. All right, so the next one is I'm
Is
gonna have to move this, get an
the
angle.
British GP, yeah.
It is. We are going to Silverstone in 2 weeks. Let's get this new angle. All right. Silverstone qualifying.
You start.
I would like to start actually, but I also have no
You
clue
think
what
Lewis will win, yeah?
Max Verstappen.
No, Lewis will win, bro.
No, we're doing qualifying first. You know what? Maybe Lewis will win. How about that?
Lewis will win. Come on. Lewis will win, yeah.
Right, I'm going with Max first. I'm gonna say. Oh no, but you know what? No. I'm gonna go Charles first, Max second, and then I'm gonna go. Oh, who would come third in qualifying though? Who on earth would do that?
Lewis, bro. Lewis.
Sergio. Does Sergio even like? Yeah, you know what, Lewis? No, you know what? You're gonna. I don't care. Lewis, next. Let's go.
Wait, I haven't said my quali, bro.
Actually, no. Oh my God. Yeah, that's what I was asking for. I changed my mind. I take Lewis out of it. I don't trust them. They don't have a qualifying car. Perez.
Charles, Max, Sainz.
Okay. All right, race. I'm gonna go with. Oh, surely Max can't win again, but I'm gonna go with Max because. Yeah, no, I'm gonna go with Max, Perez, Charles Leclerc.
Charles, Max, Perez.
Charles Leclerc wins.
He has to win at some point, so I have to back him.
Interesting. Driver of the day. This is a tough one.
I'm thinking, will anyone do a recovery drive?
Yeah,
You can
that's
do. You could probably do something at Silverstone, to be fair. Usually, I go with like the solid
winner.
choice, you know. Yeah, that has done a kind of good job for me so far. I'm thinking, should I go? Like, I'm thinking I might go George.
Ooh, okay.
Nah, I think I'll go with
Yeah?
Charles. Yeah, Charles.
Charles. Ah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting. I'm gonna go with.
Lewis.
Oh, no, I kind of want to go with like
Danny
Bottas or
Ricciardo.
Magnussen, but I don't know if they'll have the
Danny Ricciardo, bro.
car.
Ricciardo.
Esteban Ocon? No.
Ricciardo, bro. Ricciardo.
No. There's no
Ricciardo.
way you could try and convince me to put down Daniel Ricciardo
Give you a tenner.
as drive. No. Uh, do I just go with Max? I might. No. Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Screw it. We'll go Max. Go on then. Right, DNFs, what do you reckon?
4.
I'm gonna. You always go 4.
No, actually, I used to always go 5. But now I'm going 4.
Yeah, well, how about this? I'm gonna go with 5.
No, go 7, bro. I think this is going to be a big race.
I'm gonna stick with 5. I don't see it being
Okay.
that many. Imagine
You-
it's like a tire, like, oh my god, imagine like 8 tires blow out. That's mad. All right, you did the intro, so you can see us out of this episode.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Check out all the links down somewhere here or up here somewhere. We'll set it up. And we'll see you guys not next week, the week after at Silverstone. Bye. Wave.